Hey there, I'm Trenton Dykes, and here today at JTech I'll be teaching you how to perform pressure testing on your fuel system. I will be teaching you how to check your pressure with just priming the pump at 2000 RPM and at idle, at 3 different points of cranking up the vehicle and doing stuff with the vehicle. I will be teaching you also how to perform tests on your fuel injectors. These tests are here to help us diagnose the fuel system. With these tests, we can figure out if your fuel pump's even working, if you got a clog in line, if you have a leak, if your fuel pressure regulator is stuck open or closed, or if the diaphragm's messed up, or if just one of your injectors is not working. From these tests, you can learn a lot. So the first thing to know when you are performing a fuel pressure test, always keep a fire extinguisher near you when you're working with fuel, and always relieve the pressure before trying to crack open the fuel system. So for this 2008 Honda Accord, it's under the dash. So we will go under the dash, pull the main or the relay for the fuel pump, and I'm looking at it right now. So when you pull it, you will crank the vehicle. So here's the relay that I pulled under the dash for the Honda Accord. And after pulling this out, you should have no fuel pressure at all. And then you would just crank the vehicle and relieve the pressure. Just crank it for maybe 5 seconds, relieve the pressure, take it out, put it down. And then taking out the relay for a fuel pump, we would only need it out when we are running a static fuel pressure test. And that's really just, you flip on the key and you'll prime the system. So after performing our test, I forgot to explain how exactly we set up this tool. So I'm gonna do that right now. So after having released the pressure by doing what I did in step 1, by pulling out the fuel pump relay, and then just turning the key and cranking it to relieve pressure. After that, you would just disconnect the original hose, and then in the kit it has this adapter. You'll plug it in, and these little clips right here, you'll use the original clip off of this line to plug it into the adapter. The adapter already comes with its own clip and everything. And then after the adapter, you would just attach your gauge hose, and then from your gauge there'll also be another tube, and that will actually go into just a little container to catch all the gas after you keep releasing all the pressure, like that. Just goes directly into that cup. And then for these tests will show us how much pressure we're getting with the fuel pump just from priming, from being at idle, and then at 2000 RPM. We can see a few little faults from there. See if there's any clogs in the lines. See if the fuel pump actually cuts on and anything like that. If your fuel pressure regulator is stuck open, then you won't have a lot of pressure to begin with. So this is a pretty good test for just pressure. And the next test we will be performing injector pulse width. So we will be connecting another device to the injector while it's still hooked up to a fuel row, and that will test. It will pulse the injector 50 times, and we get to see how much pressure is dropped from each injector as it's being pulsed down.
After you took it out, you crank it?
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Crank it?
No, I just prime it. Yes, sir. So here is just a static test. We're just seeing what pressure comes on when we prime the pump. And now we will actually relieve that pressure. This little gauge gets stuck. All right, and now we are going to do the running pressure test. So it goes up to 50 psi of pressure. And then as it's running at idle, it stays at 55. And then, all right, it's at idle and it stays at 55. And now, can you bring it up to 2,000? So that's the car going up to 2,000 RPM. It fluctuates just a little bit, but not too much.
Really?
One dropped. The lowest one dropped. The lowest one dropped was more.
So that was the resistance for the injector. I forgot to do that test, so I'm adding it to my video now. It was at 0.2 ohms of resistance, and I think that's pretty much in spec. So right now we're going to be performing the fuel injector test. We still have the gauge hooked up, but we've added another device plugged into the fuel injector. We have it set to 4 amps, and it's going to pulse 50 times. And we have it plugged up to the injector, and right now we have 45 psi of pressure. And then once we press the button, you see it going down. It's pulsing. It's pulsing the injector open and closed, and it went from 45 to 30. And we can see that it didn't lose too much pressure in that test, but there are specs that you need to look up, and if they are within that spec, then your injector is still good. And I'm Trent Dykes, and I am out.